Looking back at the whole circumstances of the events, it was a shambles, wasn't it?
I would agree with you. I have called on many occasions for an extraordinary meeting of the Police and Crime Panel. I have been told on many occasions that that meeting should not take place. One, because the judicial review was going ahead. Two, the fact that the county council elections were ongoing. And therefore, I waited for the end of the county council elections, then to demand an extraordinary meeting, which took place on the 9th of May.
Thank you. Dr. Huppert and then Mr. Reckless, then Mrs. Ford.
I'm sort of slightly flabbergasted by some of what you've said. And it seems to me that as chair of the panel, you have a leadership role in making sure that these things
I have the full support of my panel.
Are done correctly. But I have to say, if you have the full support of your panel, and you called many times for extraordinary meetings and they didn't happen, that suggests there is a concern. I mean, some of us here were on the debate through this legislation. Certainly one of my major concerns was that panels wouldn't be strong enough to actually get things done. I think we'll come back to that. But it seems to me that you're not even living up to what the legislation allows.
I can assure you I'm strong, otherwise I would not have taken further advice from Damien Green or from the local government association. I have strongly called for an extraordinary meeting and it's been resisted from our legal department.
But, I mean, it seems to me the chair of a committee doesn't have to strongly call for meetings of their own committee. They normally just happen. And I refer to the question that the chair asked. You have a legal advisor, you don't know how they got the job. Presumably you asked a council to sort it out.
I understand the legal advisor is a job share, because although I'm a district council, I'm also a county council as well, and that legal advisor does share her role with different councils.
But would you're suggesting all the problems ultimately arise as a result of one of the district councils that makes up the panel, is what you've implied. Will you be detaching them from any further role with the police and crime panel and find a different council that could service it, for example? Because it seems to me that you're having very poor service.
Could you just repeat that last section of your question?
As I understand it, you're getting advice and support from one of the district councils.
From the county council legal advisor.
From the county. Could you get a different council to provide that service? It seems like they're not serving you well. If you as the chair of a panel are getting them refusing to allow you to call meetings of your own committee and giving legal advice that you then have to get ministers to overturn, what does it take to get different legal advisors and get a different council to administer things?
But that legal advisor was a senior legal advisor. I mean, it's like Alan Hardwick taking the decision to suspend the chief constable. He took legal advice. If you go against legal advice, where do you go?
You get other legal advisors who don't have the same problem. It seems to me that either you are getting very, very poor advice, in which case you need to get different advisors, or you are making poor decisions based on that advice.
I'm certainly not making poor decisions.
So if you're not making poor decisions, then it's the advice that must be wrong.
Otherwise, I would be strongly pushing forward for action to be taken, for an extraordinary meeting to be called.
I certainly know, for this committee, if the chair wants an extraordinary meeting to be called, an extraordinary meeting generally gets called relatively promptly. I don't think he spends months calling for it.
No.
Nor
do I seek legal advice.
But Mr. Chairman, when you do get written legal advice not to take any further action, what do you do?
Well, the first thing you can do is send it to the Select Committee. We would like to see a copy of the advice and a timeline of what you've had to go through.
I've all the emails.
Councillor Wootten, it sounds pretty awful for you, and we'd like to help you. And I'd be very helpful if you could let us have a timeline and any written legal advice and any emails you've received.
I just want to reiterate, I do have the support, the full support of my panel members.
I'm very pleased to hear that.